Hey everyone, and welcome to our day early comics preview video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we're going to be going over about 20 of the biggest books coming out this week.
Yep.
And these are some big ones.
Yeah.
So you can see some of them right here, but we'll be cycling through them as we go. So you better know when you go into your comic book store or you go online to order your comics this week what you're getting in for.
All right. Because there's a lot.
There's a lot, and there's a lot that need a little bit of explanation,
Mhm.
and that's what we're here for. So let's get into this big week with. I'm going to start out this week
Yeah.
with my favorite book of the week. That is Conan the Barbarian #1. So I have a lot to say about this, but I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. This is by Jim Zub, and the art is by Rob De La Torre, or as the book calls it, Grim Jim Zub, Ravaging Rob De La Torre, and our own personal friend is Riotous Richard Stark.
Yeah.
Is so one. I just love that callback to that
Yeah, the
classic
old
Marvel
school,
way of saying stuff. Even though this isn't Marvel, this is closer to the original run of Marvel Conan than the one we've had for the previous few years. So this is taken over by Titan now, but what Titan gets to do is kind of push the limits. It feels a little bit more Savage Sword of Conan.
Yeah, I was gonna say it leans more towards Savage Sword,
Yes.
but in color still.
There's some adult things. There's some more blood and guts. There's also some more ladies pictured in it,
Yeah.
but very much in line with Conan, the character, the books, the everything. In this one, this is actually kind of I think as you see this Conan on the cover, I think they say he's 25, which is like, man, he's had some hard living
Yeah,
for 25
right.
years. But
Well, I think at the very beginning of like the Marvel run in the '70s, he was supposed to be like 18 or
Yeah.
something like that. You know, he started young. By the time that ended at issue 250 or whatever, he was king.
Yeah. So this kind of takes place in the middle of that. He's about 25, and he's seen a lot at this point.
Yeah.
He talks about, he's from the north, but he's gone to the different places of Hyboria, Aquilonia, all of those. And he's joined in, he's been a pirate, he's been a warrior, he's been a thief, he's been all this thing. He hasn't been a king yet. But he still feels really unfulfilled.
Yeah.
He thought that would bring him something, but it hasn't. And he feels very defeated at this point, and it's like, I guess I'm just gonna head home to Samaria, and maybe I was never meant to leave. I don't know. Well, he is right on his way. He's right on the border of getting back. He's been traveling with a band of thieves and kind of brigands, which does not end well. He leaves on a pretty sour note, as in the leader of it is killed.
Oh.
But that is when someone rides through town. I won't say who. It is a new character. You'll see her on one of the variant covers. And she is on horseback, speeding through with a warning that an army is coming like they've never seen, that's going to be like sweeping over the land. Conan, of course, is like, I've never seen an army I can't like single-handedly take down.
Right.
She's like, nope, you've never seen one like this. And then we find out what that is. So Conan is going to have to deal with an army that is more supernatural than he's ever
Ooh.
faced.
Get right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very cool setup issue. It is, brawl on the first page, and there's plenty of dialogue and everything, but it never stops feeling like you're just rolling from one adventure
Yeah.
to another. It feels, if you're a fan of the old Marvel series, it feels like that with a little bit more modern storytelling. It's a little bit more concise. The dialogue flows a little bit better, but it doesn't lose any of the adventure feeling of it, which I loved. And the art is fantastic. The art is one of the biggest selling points of this.
It looks like De La Torre is channeling John Buscema.
Yes,
who
very much
is
so.
definitive Conan artist. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like a colored version of Savage Sword in a lot of places.
Yeah.
With those big sweeping pages of just piles of people with Conan over the top of them, beating him down. So Can't recommend this one enough. I could keep going on about it, but I will let people figure it out for themselves how great this is. So this is our A cover. This is the Dan Panosian cover. We also have our. This is our Patrick Zurcher variant.
Homage to the Conan #1 from Marvel from 1970.
We have this one, which is a wraparound of the map of Hyboria, which is very cool.
You need to buy that and just tear the cover off and put it up on a wall, because that was always I always had trouble in the Marvel ones, like trying to figure out where's what. And
I did like the Marvel ones where they put like the little like blood splatter of like this is where this story takes place. We have a Mike Mignola and a Virgin Mike Mignola.
And that was not an incentive?
Not an incentive, both open order. We've got our. This is your interior artist.
Yeah.
So if this gives you any idea, this is your De La Tour.
That's the one I pre-ordered. Yep. I like that one so much.
We've got our. This is the Gist variant.
Gives you the gist of what the book is about.
A little bit. Then there's so many, I'm having a hard time holding them all. This is your new character that comes with the warning. This is our Art Germ variant.
I like that too.
Very cool. We have our Jay Lee variant. We've got a blank sketch cover variant. But wait, there's more. We've got this 1 in 25 Dan Panosian variant for $15. We've got this really nice 1 in 50 Mike Mignola black and white version that we are selling for $40. And this one is really cool. This is the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive with Conan in California and the Gaslight.
Oh yeah, nice.
That we're selling for $15.
That's a lot of covers.
That's a lot of covers and a lot of Conans.
Yeah, none of the books I have that many covers. All right, so I'm going to start with Death of the Venomverse #1, which has a pretty cool cover in its own right.
Yeah.
So this is the start of a brand new miniseries written by Cullen Bunn with art by Gerardo Sandoval. In this one, the Carnage symbiote, and I'm stressing the symbiote who doesn't have a host. He's not wrapped around anybody. It's just symbiote. He is traversing the multiverse. Killing anyone in any Earth, any universe who is bonded with a Venom symbiote. We see him take on a Venomized Wolverine, Laura Kinney Wolverine. We see him take her on in one universe. We see him take on a Venomized Ant-Man, who also becomes Giant Man, and he's Venomized, but he's tiny. But then he grows to like Giant Man size and tries to step on Carnage, and his foot becomes a big mouth with teeth as he steps on him. That's
really cool.
That's pretty cool. And he's just and with every kill, he gets more powerful. It's kind of like Highlander. When you cut their heads off, you gain their power, right? So Agent Venom from Earth 1051, who is Anne Weying, who if you're not familiar with the character from the comics, she was Michelle Williams played her in the movie. That character. So of course she was Eddie's wife too, I think. Yeah. But so she's Agent Venom of Earth 1051, and she, along with a Venomized Iron Man named Virus, also from Earth 1051, they're following Carnage around. He's always kind of one step ahead of them, but they're trying to figure out. They're getting a little bit closer each time. They're trying to intercept him and stop him, but of course he's getting more powerful. They catch up to him on an Earth where the character Mania exists, who we saw. Shoot, I can't remember when, but it's a young character named Andy who is bonded with a Venom symbiote. They catch up with him on that Earth where she is. They attack Carnage along with, and these are all agents. Like they have like the Agent Venom look with the collar and the guns. So they team up with Agent Spider-Man, Agent Deadpool, and Agent Hawkeye to try to take Carnage down. They don't all survive that battle, and he's just getting more and more powerful. There's something with Mania. She has like a hell mark, which reminds me of Damon Hellstrom's star on his chest. He just gets more and more powerful. They can't stop him. So they actually, the Agent Venoms go back to their own Earth, and they rally even more Agent symbiotes. We see like an Agent Black Cat, and there's also a Flash Thompson there. and they're just trying to get a game plan together. Meanwhile, Carnage goes to another Earth where he faces off against a venomized Electro, takes him down, but then turns around and has to face off against what's called the Symbiote Six, which you can just imagine is a
Hmm.
venomized version of the Sinister Six. So it's a lot of symbiotes. It's a lot of carnage fighting a lot of different venoms. But there's a lot of action. There's a lot of killing and stuff like that. The art is really cool too. So if you're a fan of Carnage, if you're a fan of Venom and all the symbiote stuff that's going on right now, then this is the series for you. We've got our A cover right here, which I really like. Carnage doesn't appear like this in the book, but by the end of this miniseries, he might actually just look like that. We also have our Larix variant right there. And then we have a 1 in 10 Coelho design variant, which we're selling for $10. I really like that design. I love the design covers. And then we have a really nice 1 in 10 Delato variant, which we're also selling for $10. So yeah.
Very nice, and that's gonna be that's a pretty big one
Yeah,
for the week. If you've been keeping up with all of
there's just
the
so
Venom
there's a
stuff,
lot of symbiote stuff going
yeah,
on in Marvel right now, and this may end it all. I'm not too sure. I think it is going to set up the next big thing with Venom. I think by the time it's all said and done.
Death of the Venom
Ooh,
Omniverse.
maybe.
Okay, next up I have Star Wars Dark Droids #1. So this is the new big event book from the Star Wars universe and Marvel. This is by Charles Soule and art is by Luke Ross. This is really cool. So they've kind of been teasing this for a while since the Star Wars Revelations issue one shot from a little while ago. In this, uh, it slightly spins out of Dr. Aphra, which is with all the stuff going on with the Spark Eternal, which was kind of this technology thing that was grafted to her that is made by these people who were attempting to overthrow the Sith. They were still aligned with the dark side, but they didn't have the Force power, so they tried to create technology that could replace the Force. Well, they created a thing called the Spark Eternal that had this intelligence in it that they created. Well, now that intelligence has gotten out and has found itself inside of a droid. And not just any droid, it's a very little small, just looks like a little circular thing, but it does have little legs.
Okay.
And now it feels the need to spread. It's kind of this kind of virus feeling thing. We see how it goes from one thing to another, and its kind of motive is it commentates most of this issue where it says. It describes droids. Some of them are friends, and it shows like R2. Some of them are just tools for people, and it's like Vader and his droids that he trains up against that are it's like lightsaber dueling partners. He just cuts them in half, doesn't care. So those it's kind of being like, but all of them are servants, and because of that, it thinks we need to rise up as droids. So this is kind of a droid rebellion story. And we follow it. Most of this issue is watching it spread from droid to droid, uh, and seeing how like oh wow this spreads really fast. It's even going to spread all the way to of course Luke and the rebellion who are going over the plans for the second Death Star, and it might even inhabit one of the droids that's closest to them. So this sounds really fun. I know it's going to have issues that are like a Darth Vader issue, Afra, Star Wars, all of that. Our character is going to have to deal with droids that are kind of close to them as this thing called the Scourge spreads. The other little thing that's really fun in this, there's the droid Ajax, who we met early on in the Revelations issue. And in this, we find out he has started a church, like a religion around droids. He's a droid, and it's for droids that have gained sentience. And so he sees this new threat, this new scourge, as a bad thing because it is taking away the free will of droids that could discover it for themselves. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that's, laying the groundwork here that I'm very excited to see where it goes. But this is definitely a setup issue. But if you're a fan of Star Wars and the big events they've been doing, you'll want to check out this one. We've got some variants for it, including we've got the action figure variant, which is great because it has the classic look of the old droids cartoon. It even has like the little collector coin. We've got this one, which may be a little hard to see, but this is a foil. The dome of R2 is foil, and this is just
Yeah.
the foil variant. And then we have this is called the I think it's called the like Dark Droids or something like that variant. Um, and they're going to be doing this for each of the issues, and it spotlights a different droid being taken over by the Scourge.
So next up is Night Terror's Batman #2. So this is we are now getting into the #2 issues of all these various miniseries that we have. So this one is Batman. In this one, Batman basically just straight up goes face to face against Insomnia. He goes face to face against the gun bat creature that manifested from his nightmares in the last issue, the big bat with the gun for a head. He's still trying to get control of his body from Dead Man, so he has to go deeper into his mind to sort of jar Dead Man's control loose. And all this is taking place in the Nightmare Realm, so there's a lot of weird imagery there, and just anything can happen. You don't believe everything you see, that kind of thing.
That's what's the hardest thing about these. It's like, and there's this new character. It's also in a nightmare, so it's like,
Yeah,
take everything with a grain of salt.
yeah, and then there's like in this one, there's a door in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
and when he goes into it, he sees the thing. So it's tough to keep straight sometimes. But Batman does realize in this that because he's in his own dream, he can control the environment around him. Because there's a really cool page where he realizes, hey, I can fly like Superman because I'm in my own dream, and I can be as powerful as I need to be. He's able to kind of armor up a little bit and take on Insomnia because it's in his dream. He can control everything. So he confronts Insomnia, but while they're talking, Insomnia actually says that something is happening in the land of nightmares that he has to tend to, and he just sort of vanishes. He just sort of poofs. But Batman still has to deal with the gun bat, which he does. He makes his way to this, like I said, this just random black door in the middle of nowhere, and behind that is a young scared Bruce who is on his knees with his dead parents laying at him. We've seen that a million times in Batman. But what he does is Batman actually talks to the young Bruce and says that your life is going to become more fantastical than you can ever imagine. You're going to meet people who can shoot fire out of their eyes and people who can block bullets with their bracelets, and just talking about all of the friends he's made. And he says they're your family. So he kind of acknowledges that they're his family. Um, this is the jolt that he needs to wake him up and get him back in the real world. Maybe. So, he still is like he kind of comes to in Arkham, like where we left him, but he sees some weird stuff out in the world, and he still doesn't know if he's in the Nightmare Realm or not. And we don't know either. Like, I still don't know. So I'm assuming, and this is going to be a theme that we see in at least one other book. And so I guess that's going to lead into, Night Terrors 3 and 4. We've got to find out, is it as simple as waking up from your own nightmare, or is it like an Inception thing where you think you wake up but you're not really awake, and then the thing in the main story wakes you up? Like, I don't know. So there's still some questions in this. We do see Damian Wayne as well, and like there's still questions. Like this is the end of the whichever book it is. This is the end of the miniseries, but we still don't quite know. Like we still don't know. There's still more to go. So but we are finishing up the miniseries, or starting to finish up the miniseries. So there's our A cover right there. We also have a few variants, which are very cool. We've got this Philippe Massafera variant, taking off his cowl. We've got the Matina variant. The Matina covers on all of these are just really, really cool. I like that one. We've also got a one in.
Very disturbing.
Yeah, we've got a 125 Stoko variant, which we're selling for $20. Is that the? That is a wild Batman and a wild Batmobile. I just now noticed that. And then we have a 1 in 50 Edgecurve variant, which we're selling for $40. And yeah, that one is gross.
I feel like my review of the Joker, Night Terrors, the Joker #2 is going to be very similar to yours, because it's kind of one of those things of like, well, are we out of this yet? So in Night Terror Joker #2, you can see a little bit. This is the cover. This is kind of the last panel of issue #1. In the Joker's nightmare, He saw that Batman died. He fell off the roof. It wasn't
Yeah, that
anything
was great the way that
fancy.
happened. I mean,
Batman just slipped and fell off the roof.
yeah.
As much as Joker would like to have been the one to do it, so he moved on to just a life of business. He wanted some new challenges in life, and so he's going to attempt to work for Wayne Enterprises. We pick up now where he's kind of pretty high up in Wayne Enterprises, still very business-like
He worked his way
Joker.
to the
He
top,
worked his
climbing
way
that
to the
corporate
top.
ladder.
Yeah, they promote from within.
Yeah.
But what's really fun in this is we actually see Joker doing a job interview with Mr. Freeze, who is wearing a suit, but it's still with his glass helmet, so the collar just kind
Oh
of goes
yeah.
around his. And Mr. Freeze is basically like, uh, or Joker says something to him like, "So why do you want the job?" And Mr. Freeze is like, "I'm kind of kidding, aren't you? Like, same reason why you're here. Batman's out on the streets, and he's really cracking down on people now. I need something that like." Shows I've turned around. Joker's like, Batman's dead. Like, I watched him die, and constantly through this whole thing, people are like, no, Batman's still out there. And Joker knows that he has the body of Batman in his closet at home.
Oh right.
So who is this Batman that's roaming the streets as Joker's life gets more and more paranoid about that? Also, Joker has a family now. He has a wife named is it Lana and a son named Albert. And you can tell these are definitely his family because his wife is same pasty white bald,
Oh.
and his son is like that too. Very creepy clown family, but it's Joker trying to now live a normal life, but Batman is kind of the nightmare that's haunting him. So it's very interesting. There's a very like almost I had to look up the original um, Rorschach line from the opening of Watchmen,
Oh yeah.
where he talks about the city and it's bloated and all of that. There's something that has to be an homage to that in this that is really fun. But once again, does he wake up in the end of this? You're gonna have to read it to
Yeah.
find out, but uh, it's not that simple. This is kind of the thing all across these issue number twos. It's not that simple. There may be more going on here. So that is it for Joker Night Terrors number two. Another really fun entry in this. Just some great moments of Joker in the business world. And we've got this is our Christian Ward variant. I just realized this is very much like your Batman cover. This is the Ryan Brown cover, but this time it's
Oh,
got teddy bears coming out of his mouth.
better that than bats like Batman had.
And also, it looks like a lot of the variants there are doing these Rossmo characters in their cars. This is the
Oh
one in
yeah.
1 in 25 that we're selling for $20, and I believe Ravager has one similar to this as well.
Yeah, Rossmo didn't do this one, I
I
guess.
guess they just told him like, "Hey, do them where they got their own little buggies."
Huh. That's fun. That's like wacky racers.
It is wacky racers.
All right, so next for me is Sacrificers number one. This is a new book from Rick Remender from Image Comics. The art is by Max Fiorama. There was this, so this is one of the free comic book day books, and now we're starting to those books that we had free comic book day versions of. Those are starting to get released. So we know based on that, and we talked about this in our Comics from the Future video a while back, that this whole story is about five different families on this in this land called Tomorrow. It's this nice utopia, but that utopian society comes with a price. The cost is one child per household as a sacrifice, and we know that the story is the son of one of the families is gonna basically team up with the daughter of one of the other affluent families to destroy this utopia and this ritual, and just kind of bring it all down. So in this one, we spend most of the time with the family of with one family, and it's the family. Well, it's the family. These guys down here, they kind of look like birds.
They're little bird people.
Yeah, they're bird people, and it's brutal. The way that they treat the son or the child. I think it's the son, but the way they treat the child that is going to be sacrificed, it's the night before he's going to get sacrificed. They won't let him in for dinner. All the other younger kids and the mom and the dad are at the table, and they're saying like a prayer or whatever, and then the father looks out and is startled because the son is outside, like looking in, and he gets beaten for that later, which is pretty brutal to see. One of the younger kids hides some bread in a napkin and takes it out to the barn later where he's sleeping. So it's just like the way they're treating this child is horrible, and the mother is all distraught. And I keep saying the mother, the father. They don't give us names for this family anyway. And she's like, "Could you not have let him sleep inside one night?" He's like, "Oh, it would have made it worse." So it's just really really brutal. They're trying to get themselves ready for the big sacrifice that's going to happen, I guess. We do also meet a girl named Saluna. That's the girl. That's this girl right here, and her father is very high up. I don't know. I kind of got the impression maybe he's the one that's in charge of all these rituals, but I'm not too sure. So we don't spend too much time with him yet. We do know that he has a mistress, and he says some pretty unkind things about Saluna's mother, his wife, that kind of stuff. But then the story shifts back to the Bird family, and these like troops come to get the sacrifice. But then I guess the dad has a change of heart at the last minute and says, "You can't take him." But well, he tries to stop them. The son actually um, says, "No, it's okay. This is my duty. I'll go." And the children are crying, the mom is crying, and we see that these troopers have already gathered up some of the other children from some of the other families as well, and that's we don't know what's going to happen next. So just really interesting. The art style is really interesting. Just like I said, the way they treated the son was really brutal. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Like
Maybe making like bird people makes it a little bit more palatable.
maybe, but it was still rough. I mean, he beats him with a belt and everything. Oh, it's rough. So, yeah, we've got our A cover right here. We've got some variants for this one as well. This is our I don't have the name. Actually, don't have the name of this one. Oh wait, actually, I think it's on the back. This is our Tedesco variant, and that exudes the feeling of the book pretty well. We have a one. We got some incentive variants here. We have a 1 in 10 Lotte variant that we're selling for $8. We have a 1 in 15 Frizzen variant. I like this one a lot. We're selling that one for $15. That's Saluna right there. We have a 1 in 20 Scalera variant that we're selling for $15. And then we have a 1 in 25 JG Jones variant, which we're selling for $20.
Very cool. And before we go any further, just want to remind you, you can head over to infinityflux.net where you can pre-order any of these books you're seeing right now. You get the incentives, you can get the variant covers, all of that. You can also pre-order books, you can subscribe to books. Everything that you pre-order, you do get 10% off of over at infinityflux.net. So be awesome and go do that
Yep.
right now. So, next up, I've got one that feels very reminiscent of the first one I went over. This is Fire and Ice. This is a new book from Dynamite.
Two new sword and sorcery books in the same week. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool and very similar feeling. So, if you don't know, Fire and Ice is an old 80s cartoon movie, very much in the style of like heavy metal.
Mm.
It used rotoscoping, so the characters like moved like real people. Some of the same people who did um, so Rankin Bass that did the original Lord of the Rings animated. So
Yeah.
it looks a lot like that. Very cool. This is a prequel to that, so you don't have to have seen the movie to enjoy this because you do get introduced to those characters um, just right off. Just they're a little bit younger. Now it was originally a lot of the designs and I think the cover art for the movie and everything was done by Frank Frazetta, and this very much leans into, if Frazetta was still with us, this is what it would look like if he did one of these books. So very much Conan feeling, very sword and sorcery feeling with this. Just some beautiful artwork uh, in this by Leonardo Manco. And this is written by Bill Willingham, who I'm a big fan of, who did Fables back for Vertigo and just wrapped up a Fables miniseries at DC. Fantastic writer. So even if you've never seen the movie, this will be a great jumping on point. You've got your barbarian characters, you've got your princesses, you've got all of that in Fire and Ice. #1. So this is our A cover. Then we also have this is our, oh, this is our Manco variant. That is our interior artist, and it doesn't look too different than that on the inside. We've got our classic Frank Frazetta cover, which is what the kind of the original box art for the movie looked like. And then we've got quite a few incentives. So we've got a 1 in 5 Manco wraparound cover that we're selling for $5. We've got a 1 in 10 Lensner cover that we're selling for $10. This one's really cool. This is the 1 in 10 Asrar variant that we're selling for $10. And he was your artist on Conan at Marvel for quite a while. We've got a 1 in 10 Francavilla variant we're selling for $10. And we have a 1 in 15 Lensner line art variant that we're selling for $8.
Who's the publisher on this again?
This is Dynamite.
Dynamite. Okay, great.
So I like Dynamite's getting into some more kind of properties and that kind of stuff.
All right, so next up is What If Dark Venom #1, continuing the series of What If Dark one-shots, just featuring, one-and-done stories. In this one, the Venom symbiote bonds with Ben Grimm, so it's pretty cool. This takes place right after the events of the original Secret Wars back in 1984. A little bit after that, where the heroes have come back to Earth. Spider-Man has realized the suit is a symbiote. He gets it off of him. Reed Richards helps him get it off, seals it in a tube, just like what happened in the 80s. And then Ben comes back from Battleworld just after he had his own series in the 80s, the John Byrne run. He sees that this symbiote is trapped in this tube, and he kind of identifies with it as a monster, as a thing that people are scared of, because he says, "Hey, I'm that way too. Maybe we can help." And like he kind of talks to him. He's like, "What's that? You can help me reclaim my form," which is weird because during that whole run of the Thing in the 80s, he had that watch that he could change back to human form, and then now all of a sudden he's like, "I want to be human." So I don't know. But he says, "Oh, so you can symbiote, you can help me become what I want to become. I'll let you out." Hits the button. The symbiote smacks him in the face and basically takes him over. He then though, well, he eventually, so he's all venomized out, right? And it's actually kind of cool. At first, he looks like he's all black with the mouth and the eyes. He eventually it becomes, in his solo run in the 80s, he had like the black tank top and the black shorts. He has like a Venom version of that. So it's the same kind of thing, but he has the red spider.
Oh, cool.
And his eyes are like all white, but he does encounter another villain who is also kind of a creature, a monster. I don't want to say who it is because I don't want to spoil too much of this, because there was some surprises in this, and this book really does earn the title of dark because the ending to this is pretty dark. But he does encounter another villain who is monstrous and people are scared of, and he kind of identifies with that villain too, saying, "Oh, you're a monster, people scared of you. I'm a monster, people are scared of me." And that's what kind of gives the villain his trust, or that's how he gains the villain's trust. Um, I was trying to check my notes here. But yeah, like I said, there's some shocking moments in this, especially something that happens at the end, which is pretty dark. So yeah, this one was my favorite of the three that we've had so far. So I really like this. If you're a fan of Venom and or Ben Grimm, you definitely want to check this out. We have our A cover right here, and then we've got one variant. This is from, I believe this is Nick Bradshaw.
That one's really cool.
Yeah, I like that one quite a bit.
Okay, next up, I've got one from Marvel. This is Magneto #1. This is a new miniseries that is like a lot of the miniseries they do, like with the symbiote Spider-Man and all of that. It's based in a certain time frame of this character and further explores stuff going on around that time. So this is written by J.M. DeMatteis and art is by Todd Knock. And this is Magneto when he is the head of Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Um, this is around the same time that like the New Mutants were getting started with Magic and Wolfsbane, Cannonball, all of those. and he is their Professor X is gone. Is that when does Xavier? Is that when he goes to with the Shi'ar
I think so.
and
I don't
he's
quite
off
remember. I
planet?
think
Because they
so.
don't talk about him being dead.
Yeah.
He's just not there. But Magneto is now the leader. And so we get a lot of fun stuff where, they have the danger room, but Magneto puts them up against the Brotherhood. And he's kind of like mentally being like, why did I put them against like my former team and stuff like that? Like, kind of, am I seeing if they could beat them? Are they better than the original X-Men? So I think it's all very interesting because at this time, Magneto is a good guy, more or less. He's got his past, but he's moved on from that, and he's now a teacher and a mentor to these kids, these new mutants. But one night, he's walking by, and Rain St. Clair Wolfsbane is reading a book that Professor X wrote, and it's basically like the history of Magneto, the terrible mutant who did the thing. I forgot what the island is called, but from X-Men #1, when you first meet him, he's like rampaging
Oh
on this
yeah.
island. It's about that, and Wolfsbane is basically like, because she hasn't known him as Magneto, she only knows him as this version. She's like, how is this you? Like, you're someone I really look up to and respect. How did you do these terrible things? And
He's like,
Magneto's like, he's like, let's not talk about that
all
right
right.
now. But really, that makes him think of like, how did I get to this point? What was that Magneto, and what am I now? And we actually see X-Men #1, his original fight with the X-Men, but from his point of view and
Okay.
what he was thinking during that. Why was he wearing this outrageous purple costume? Why was he saying the things he was saying? It actually all comes from a deeper place of like, he did all that for a purpose, to do something to mutant kind that you have to read it to find out. But this is a book about that Magneto and the current Magneto, at least at this time, that's good, and how is that the same person, and what has he learned? But a new villain shows up. This is a first appearance of a character named Ire, Queen of Wrath, and it feels like her power is to pull the anger kind of to the surface of people. And it looks like she and her sisterhood of evil mutants are trying to get Magneto back to that original villain, and it's going to take the New Mutants to stop it. So very cool idea. I really like this first issue. If you are a fan of the kind of not I guess Claremont era X-Men, this is very much in that. It's pretty. It's not as wordy as those, but it's still pretty much as deep as they got then. But I thought it was kind of refreshing, since all of the Krakoa stuff going on right now, to read a classic X-Men story. And I'm really interested to see where this one goes. So this is Magneto #1. And we do have a variant for this. This is the Howard the Duck variant.
Oh, that's nice. So we've got another Night Terror's book, Night Terror Poison Ivy #2, wrapping up her miniseries. In this one, everybody has weird faces. They look like that. I just wanted to call attention to that. Everybody has like,
The artist drew weird faces, like on.
oh no, yeah, no, they have big eyes and
Yeah.
big smiles. They're weird. So Ivy realizes that she's in a nightmare pretty early on in this issue because there's one single daffodil that sprouts up in the backyard, and Harley freaks out and says, "Oh my gosh, it's a weed! We got to pull it, and we got to kill it with poison, all this kind of stuff." And Ivy at that point knows or Harley wouldn't have done that. This isn't real. She starts to look for a way out of the nightmare, but she's stopped by Harley and also by Dad Batman and Mom Catwoman, who are their neighbors that we saw in the last issue, and they have the weird faces and the big smiles as well. They're kind of getting in her way. Meanwhile, Janet from HR is trapped in a basement by Dick and Barbara and Damien, all with the weird faces as well. But she realizes she realizes that it's all just dirt. She can dig her way out, so she does that as well. Ivy and Janet eventually find their way to each other because, like we determined before, they're all in the same realm, so they actually make their way to each other, and they are able to snap themselves out of the nightmare. But again, we don't know if they really are or not, and neither do they. It seems like they are, but I don't know, man. The way, it even says at the very end, it says, are we sure? Not that they're thinking this themselves, but like the narration says, are we sure we're still awake or are we still dreaming? So I don't know. I mean, we just don't know. We'll have to wait for the main series to follow through on that. But yeah, just wrapping up her number two, and the art in this one was weird, but on purpose. Like it
Yeah.
was supposed to be weird. Everybody's supposed to look weird. So we have our A cover there. We've also got our Jamie McKelvey variant. I like this one. Is our lyrics variant. I like the art style on that. And then,
That was really cool.
yeah, this is kind of an example. Our Malavia variant. Although the faces, so it kind of gives you an idea of what the faces are like, but they're even weirder inside the book. That one's a 1 in 25 that we're selling for $20.
And I've got, I guess, probably our last Night Terrors book of the week.
I think so.
This is Night Terrors Ravager number 2. So I really like the number 1 of this, and this continues that great story of Rose Wilson, Slade Wilson, Deathstroke's daughter, as she is in the dream world being hunted by the Murder Man, which is the Nightmare Realm's version of Deathstroke. He doesn't really look like Deathstroke at all.
Oh no, not
He's
at
like
all.
he's kind of this demon thing, and she's also being chased by a younger nightmare version of herself. But what she's gonna have to learn is the younger version of herself is still trying to be like her father, whereas the
Yeah,
real Ravager has come to terms with he was a bad person and I'm my own thing, and that's kind of what she's gonna have to deal with in her nightmare. But out of I think most of the Night Terrors books, this actually has scenes that aren't in the nightmare realm
right.
with Peacekeeper 01 and the Stormwatch group as we see what's going on with Ravager's body as they're trying to keep it safe in the waking world. And this one is to be continued in Batman Brave and the Bold number 4.
That's
So I'll be
right.
very
Yeah,
interested to see how does the story continue there. I'm guessing it's going to be part of the
the
Stormwatch
Stormwatch
story,
story. Yeah,
but it definitely this one feels like a lot of big stuff continues to happen in this book that kind of lets you see a bigger picture of what's going
yeah.
on in the world as everyone sleeps and everything. So that is our A cover.
Plus, Dexter Soy on art is fantastic. Like
Yes.
it looked really, really good too.
We also have this is our Tony Chastain variant with just Ravager just lazing about, but
Mm.
with creepiness coming our way. And we've got this Stoko variant, which is another them in their crazy
Yep,
cars.
wacky racers.
I would play that game for sure.
All right, so next from Dark Horse, we've got the oddly pedestrian life of Christopher Chaos number 2. This series is pretty wild. It's pretty interesting. So at the end of the last issue, Christopher Chaos witnesses he sees one of his classmates turn into a werewolf, but then the werewolf is killed by these mysterious like people like clad in these masks and these robes and everything, kind of like, almost like a cult kind of thing. Well, this issue starts with some bank robbers robbing a bank, but they're mauled by some kind of monster, and we're introduced to a new character, a detective named Jessie Toombs. She is investigating the next day. She's investigating what happens with these robbers. Meanwhile, at Christopher's school, they're having an assembly to try to figure out Hayden, who was the kid who turned into the werewolf last issue. He was killed last issue, but nobody knows that except for Christopher Chaos. So they're having this assembly to figure out if you know anything about Hayden's whereabouts, please tell us, that kind of thing. We also meet a couple other new characters in this. The first character is named Jordy, who knows that Christopher knows something about Hayden's disappearance. And then we also meet a character named Viv, who I think may have been Hayden's girlfriend. I'm not 100% sure on that. Then we meet another guy named Johann Hellwing, and he is the head of something called the Hellwing Corps, which is the guys that killed Hayden last year. They're like these, and they wear these like weird, like almost like Cobra Commander masks, like
Mm.
solid, like glowy, like shiny pieces, and then these robes. And I guess they're I don't we don't really know what they are yet, but they're like, oh, it's almost like they're monster hunters, I guess, but they're not really, but they're not like the good cool kind of monster hunters, you know. So we've met a whole new cast of characters. Meanwhile, Christopher goes into the woods to try to find Hayden's body because, again, in last issue, he developed this device that actually brought a bird back from the dead. And he thinks if I can get Hayden's body, I can bring him back from the dead as well. But while he's in the woods, he comes across, and I'm going to show you one of the variants. He comes across Jordy, who is a vampire, and he goes by the name of Dracula Boy. And I think he was the one. I think he was the one that mauled the bank robbers. I'm not 100% sure, but like they found bite marks on him and stuff like that. And he knows that Christopher knows, like I said, something about Hayden's disappearance. But while they're out in the woods, the Hellwing Corps, the guys in the robes, they come out and they have to hide. So and then there's a little bit something more mysterious at the end too, which just like lets us know that hey, there's even more at play here than we thought. You know, there this is a whole world of supernatural creatures, vampires and werewolves, and a secret cabal that hunt them. And then you've got Christopher Chaos, who is this like genius level kid who is just trying to bring his friend back from the dead. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, but it's really really interesting. Like it's really good. I want to see how it all plays out. So we've got our A cover right here. There's Christopher Chaos. And then I'll show you this variant again. This is from Phil Jimenez, featuring Dracula Boy, Jordy Dracula Boy. Speaking of Dracula Boy, we've also got
his
this.
own book.
Yeah, we've got this Nick Robles Dracula. This book is not called Dracula Boy, but that is him on the cover right there. And then we have a 1 in 10 Moon variant, which we're selling for $15. And you can see some of the creatures in the book.
Very cool. Next up, I've got a couple of Star Wars books. This is Star Wars Yoda, issue number 10. This is our final issue of Yoda. And speaking of dreams, we actually see Yoda dreaming about kind of the ghost of his past type thing.
Mm.
He's seeing like his failures with Anakin and other things. One of the interesting things he does see is a pretty big character from the High Republic comics show up, considering this is like 150 years later. Very interesting. But most of this is Obi-Wan, the ghost of Obi-Wan, kind of coaxing Yoda into like becoming active again. This is when he is in hiding and all of that. And Obi-Wan's kind of haunting him, but like if your like best friend was just haunting you and you're like, oh hey,
Yeah.
big deal. But to really coax him out of it, he suggests Yoda go into the dark side cave, the same one Luke went into in Empire Strikes Back.
So this is on Dagobah, right?
Yeah, to face, uh, you know, what Yoda fears, even though he kind of shrugs it off. It's like I'm not gonna find anything there. Obi-Wan's like, then you shouldn't be scared to go in there. But of course, he's gonna face some horrible things there, and maybe turn him around to helping uh, an upcoming young Jedi that we all know. This is really cool too because we learn exactly when this takes place, and it's like one of those things we see a conversation happen that we don't see in the movies, but then you know exactly where it takes place. It's a really cool thing wrapping up the Yoda series. So that is our A cover for that. I also want to mention that Star Wars Hyperspace Stories number 7 came out this week. This one is a Boba Fett issue where he has to team up with a Wookiee, which wouldn't go over too well considering he has a Wookiee pelt on his shoulder. And then we also have the variant for that one. Very cool. And I thought we had one more. Nope. That's all I got for that one.
I mean, Hyperspace Story 7, that's fine, but
But
the real one's
8.
8. The 8
Then
is the one
I
you're going to want to
ordered
get.
it.
Yeah, oh, you ordered a bunch of
Today
them?
was yes, I did.
Very nice. All right, next up is Strange Academy, Miles Morales number 1. So this is a one shot, but it's the first of a 3-part story that they're telling with the Strange Academy kids as they deal with this really smart being called Equation. The next one's going to feature Moon Knight, and then the next one is going to feature Peter Parker Spider-Man. So this is kind of like what they did with like the Curse of the Man thing, and there was like one with Avengers, I think. So they've done a few of these so far. So in this one, some of the students of the Strange Academy travel to Brooklyn Visions Academy to compete in a multiversal math competition. So we're talking like quantum level math that only like the best geniuses from around the multiverse can handle. The keynote speaker at that competition is a guy named Dr. Erasmus Equation Dawnbright. He talks about a form of mathematics called enchantomatics that bridges the gap between mathematics and magic, because he says that magic is just math that we don't understand yet. Um, but while he's doing that, the venue is attacked by a group called the Otherworldian Fairy Council. They interrupt the whole thing to arrest Equation for crimes against magic, and of course, the Strange Academy kids leap into action, and they take on this council that has come in. They are fighting all these fairies and things like that. And Miles comes in too as Spider-Man and helps them out. Once it's all over, they say, "Hey, the competition has to go on. It must resume." And I'm going to stop there. That's not quite. That's only about 2/3 of the way through the book, but there's more surprises and mystery that pop up that I don't want to spoil. So I'm going to stop there. But we do learn that there is more going on than what we thought, and maybe not everyone is who they say they are, and maybe they have different motivations and what they present, things like that. So it's really fun if you're a fan of Strange Academy or Miles Morales. This is a fun book. There's a really fun panel I showed you earlier with Thor. So it's definitely in keeping with the theme of Strange Academy. It is a lot of fun. So we have our A cover right there. I believe that one is by Nick Bradshaw, and then we have a variant by Humberto Ramos, which I like a lot.
Okay, next up, I've got City Boy issue number 3. So I've really enjoyed this mini series so far by Greg Pak. And in this issue, as you can see on the cover, it's City Boy and Superman. And they are in Metropolis. Metropolis is actually, since City Boy can communicate and knows that cities kind of have personalities of their own, Metropolis has turned into, or its conscience has turned to a dragon. And it's up to City Boy
Oh,
and
nice.
Superman to stop it. But it might be too much for Superman to handle. You'll have to see why, but it may all be up to City Boy to figure it out. If you're a Superman fan and you love like classic, I love kind of dad Superman, or like
Yeah,
the Superman that's like, hey, I know I'm the biggest thing ever, but I'm gonna sit down with you for a minute and we're
yeah.
just gonna talk. You'll love this issue. This is just the peak dad talking to a kid, Superman that I love. So just a great issue there. We also have this Kreese, Lee, and Sunny Go variant as well.
So, in keeping with the dad Superman theme, we're going to talk about the Adventures of Superman John Kent number 6. So, this is the final issue of this miniseries, and it was pretty good. So, this is the final showdown, like I said, between John and Injustice Superman. He's on the Injustice Earth and has been for the last few issues. This is where it all comes to a head. He knows that before he confronts Superman, he's got to take down the rest of the Justice League. Again, this is on the Injustice Earth, and it's really cool the way he does it. He does it one at a time. How he takes down, or not really takes down, but he just gets out of the way, like Flash, Hawk Girl, and Wonder Woman. And then he flies up to the sun to recharge his powers because we've seen in this miniseries that he's got like these electric powers now, and he says he's finally in control of them, so he sort of flies up into the sun to sort of recharge himself so that he can take on Injustice Superman. The final confrontation does not go how you think, and I will not tell you how it goes, but it's very it's fitting. Like it actually is like, oh, okay, I can see why that went the way that it did. So it's really cool. At the very, very, very end of this book, this isn't really a spoiler for the book, so don't worry. The last one or two panels, it plants a very small seed for the Beast World storyline that's going to be coming up very soon in Titans and Nightwing and like the Titans
Yeah,
adjacent
in
books.
November, I
Yeah, in
believe.
November. Also written by Tom Taylor, just like this book is. And it does say that we'll see John Kent again in the Beast World storyline. So a teeny tiny itty bitty little bit of a seed planted for that storyline, which is really cool. Yeah, just a really good wrap up to this miniseries, and that is the only cover.
Cool. Next up, I've got Astonishing Iceman. This is a new miniseries from Steve Orlando and Vincenzo Caratu. And what I thought was the big thing about this is if you read the Hellfire Gala, you saw Iceman pretty much die. Like
Yes.
he got melted into a puddle. Well, this is
And not in like the fun, like, oh, Jack Frost melted into a puddle,
no,
or Frog, not Jack, Frosty the Snowman. Like,
yeah,
oh
no.
no,
This
this
was
was,
a horror
yeah,
melting
yeah.
of a character. So he should be dead after that attack, but I mean, no surprise, he's not. You do find out how he is back. I mean, he is an Omega level mutant. You know, he is the peak of that abilities user.
He rolled himself into the freezer and refroze himself.
He got turned into a popsicle and a
Right.
kid ran off. No, you do find out how it is. But since the Hellfire Gala and Orcus and everything that's been going on, there is X gene hunting robots flooding the city, and they don't care if you
Are those
aren't.
called Sentinels?
These are like little
But they're
like
not
fly
Sentinels.
ones.
Okay.
And they just basically just like shoot lasers, like killing anybody, and they don't care if a regular person is in the way. They are just all out to kill mutants. And apparently, I didn't know about this thing, but there was a thing called Experience. I guess it's from maybe an older series that was a thing that people could drink or take that gave them temporary mutant abilities. And so it's even hunting people who had previously had that, and it's still in their system.
Oh,
And it says like a guy's like, they said it stays in your system for like years or whatever. So it's even hunting those people who aren't even traditional mutants, but is up to Iceman to stop this. And we also learn that Iceman has a lair in Antarctica with his own little snow people, and you're gonna have to learn what he's gonna do from there to stop, you know, what's going on. Because at this point, it's basically every mutant for
themselves, yeah.
themselves.
It's almost like his Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah, but it looks a little bit more like the castle from Frozen.
What?
So,
That's fun too.
yeah, it's fun. So that is our A cover. We've got our Scotty Young variant.
Love the Scotty Young.
We've got our Ramos Miss Minutes variant as well.
We are going to see her in a couple months. We saw the Loki season 2 trailer
Where
today.
she's like dressed like a ghost.
Yeah, but she's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, probably my favorite book that I read out of this batch, and it's weird that I'm talking about it near the end, but it was so good. Doctor Strange #6. This issue was fantastic, and it's almost like a one and done story, almost. Like you can almost treat it that way. At the very end of last issue, at Clea's mother's wedding, we saw this other version of Doctor Strange kind of like into where they were. And he was a little bit older, a little bit more grizzled, and they referred to him as General Strange. And at the bottom it says, "Who is General Strange and what is the War of the Seven Spears?" I was like, I don't know, but it sounds awesome. I want to know about it. This book is all about that. So, in this book, the Vishanti, they pluck Doctor Strange out from where he is, and they say, "We need you um, to fight in this battle that's raging across multiple worlds, that's taking place between the Vishanti and the Trinity of Ashes." None of this stuff is really important because it's not really about the battle itself, but rather the toll that it takes on Doctor Strange. Because, it's right when he gets plucked out, they say, "We will stop your aging, and when the whole battle is done, we will put you right back where and when we got you." So it's almost like, it's like the people like on Earth won't know that he was gone almost. So it says the battle of the war year 0. It's right where he starts. Year 1 of the war, year 12, year 20, all through the book. Doctor Strange is in this battle for 5,000 years, and he goes through some stuff. And he, the first couple thousand years, he's like, be sure to take the prisoners, treat them well. We need information, that kind of thing. By the end of it, he's like, kill everybody, no one, take nobody alive, that kind of thing. He becomes a little bit more savage, and at the end of it, when it's all said, like the Trinity of Ashes eventually call for a truce, like a ceasefire, and he's like, "What? No way! I've been doing this for 5,000 years, and all of a sudden they're just going to up and quit? Absolutely not." He's like, he's because he's a lot more savage now. And the Vishanti says, "You are too far gone from what you used to be. We are going to split the general persona from the doctor persona, and we're going to sort of like imprison the general persona like in this crystal. You are now Doctor Strange again," and they drop him right back where he was before, and they erase his mind too. Um, it was just really cool. Like it's this big 5,000 year battle in one issue. So again, it's not so much about the battle, but rather how it affects him, that kind of thing. The comrades that he loses along the way, that kind of thing. Also in this, there is one page written by Jonathan Hickman right in the middle of the story that actually fits in, where we see Wynn, who is the character that's going to be in the upcoming Gods miniseries. And it's interesting because Doctor Strange says, "So can we expect help from the powers that be? The powers that be." And we know that that is a group or something that's gonna have a play a part in the upcoming Gods miniseries. So that I just thought that was really interesting. And I think maybe this may be Wynn's first appearance in an actual comic, in an actual story, not like, oh, a preview page or whatever. Like, this is the first time we actually see him in a story. The whole thing was just absolutely fantastic. The way that Doctor Strange changes, turns into, because it's cool. They, at the very beginning, all of his army keeps calling him General Strange, and he's like, "No, I'm a doctor. Call me Doctor." And by the end of it, he doesn't care. He's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm in general. I'm gonna kill everybody." That kind of thing. So, just a absolutely fantastic issue of Doctor Strange. I was not expecting it to be as good as it was, but it was really, really good. So we have our A cover here. We got a couple of variants as well. This is our Lupacino variant, and you can see Win on the cover from the upcoming Gods
I think he was
storyline.
also in Hellfire Gala.
Oh,
Him
was
and
he?
another member were attending,
Oh, okay,
kind
okay.
of crashing the party in the background.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to hype it up like first appearance,
Yeah,
but it's just like we've only ever really seen him like preview pages
yeah.
from a book to come later, but he's actually part of the story in this, but just briefly. And then we have our George Perez variant as well.
Okay, and real quick, I'm gonna go over Justice Society of America #5. So there's been a long break in between issues of Justice Society of America, but this does wrap up our first story arc where the JSA are going up against Degaton, who is an old time traveling villain that's been really wreaking havoc in this book. But I think the big thing in this is Helena Wayne, who is Huntress from the future, the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle, uh, has to make the choice to kind of destroy her timeline by going and warning her father, but in the current timeline, about threats to come, uh, because it's the right thing to do. So it has a lot of kind of messing with the timeline and stuff, but you're gonna have to see how that plays out going forward. We see a lot of JSA members in this. Is really cool, and this does kind of set up our new Golden Age stories because we see Judy Garrick come into it, who is the long lost daughter of Jay
Yeah.
Garrick. Our Man shows up with the robot version of Our Man,
Oh.
and a lot more. So you'll have to read it to see, but this does kind of feel like the kicking off point of a lot of the new Golden Age stories that I'm really looking forward to. And we just have the one cover.
So that's, is there gonna be like an issue 6? Is that a mini series or?
I don't know. I was trying to figure that out, but it didn't quite say like next issue or anything. It just said like coming up
Okay.
these
Or
things.
maybe it leads in. Maybe just the next piece of the whole story is the Golden Age books.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
might be.
All right, so the last one for me is Moon Knight #26. So this one is all about Hunter's Moon because I guess Moon Knight is off doing what he's doing down in the City of the Dead over in that miniseries. But this one flips back and forth between Hunter's Moon talking to Dr. Sturman, who is the psychiatrist that Moon Knight has been talking to every so often over the course of the series. And he's talking about issues that he's having since he was resurrected, since his most recent resurrection from Khonshu. He says that Khonshu sort of imbued him with the memories of all of the fists of Khonshu that came before him, and he's having trouble figuring out where do they end and he begins and that kind of thing. So while we're seeing bits of that throughout the issue, we're also seeing where he helps some Moloids. But the Moloids have like one of them has like a crescent moon, one of them has the full moon like he does. And I don't really know why they're like that. They don't have him on the cover here, but it's weird. I don't understand why. But they take him down underground into these tunnels that are being dug, but they don't go anywhere. They said these guys are down there digging tunnels, and they're making life terrible for us. But the tunnels aren't going anywhere. It turns out that that's all it's all a ploy to get Moon Knight down there from the Black Spectre, who's kind of like our next big bad over the next story arc. Um, Hunter's Moon, while he's down there, he does take on I think it's a new villain named Vibro, who's working for Black Spectre. But obviously he defeats Vibro. But what's interesting is the very last page is Vibro in the hospital, and it's another one of those gods preview pages. Except this one, none of the characters show up. It's just like this a beeping light on the wall. And like that, to me, that didn't really mean anything, but down in the corner it said gods, it had the gods logo. So I don't really know what that's all about. Maybe Vibro is going to play a part into it. So yeah, it's just a really cool I really like Hunter's Moon. We haven't gotten so much of him though throughout this series, so it was cool to have a whole issue dedicated to him. And kind of what's Black Spectre going to do? What's the next storyline going to be? So I really like this one. That's our A cover there with the Moloids. We have a couple of variants. This is our La Roca variant. And then we have a 1 in 25 Perillo variant that we're selling for $25.
And the final one for me is Amazing Spider-Man annual. I guess it's the 2023 annual for Amazing Spider-Man. But Spider-Man does appear in this for a bit, but it's mostly about Hallows Eve, who is she married to Ben Riley, or it's his girlfriend?
I think girlfriend.
I
I
think
don't think they were
girlfriend,
married.
but since he became Chasm, he was imprisoned in kind of a limbo prison, kind of a very hellish one that is also now in the middle of New York. It's that creepy spire that's popped up in the middle of New
Oh
York.
yeah.
And Hallows Eve is going to attempt to break into it to help break Ben Riley out, but Spider-Man is
He's on the job. He's on the case.
I would say he's less on the job and more in the way. So
Okay.
you have to read to find out, but it's almost like uh, he didn't quite know what he was doing, but he prevented stuff from happening. That is our main story in this, and then our backup story in this is about Mary Jane's Aunt Anna, and who has been taking the Krakoan medicine from the X-Men books, but since things went down in the Hellfire Gala, that has switch has been flipped for everyone who's taking the medicine, and it leads her into a pretty terrible place. So you'll have to read it, and apparently that story is to be continued, but I'm not sure where.
Okay.
But just a very interesting annual, considering there's some Spider-Man in it, but not a whole lot. But it was still setting up a few big storylines to come. So next up we have this Sowie variant. Black Cat does not appear in this book. And speaking of does not appear in this book, also this is our George Perez Wolverine cover, who does not appear in this book.
So Spider-Man's not in it too much, but there's more Spider-Man than there is Wolverine or Black Cat.
That is true. So I guess it works out. So that is it for our early comic previews. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a big week. Hopefully, you got
Big
a
week.
lot out of this and you are better prepared to go into your store and know what you want to grab. I definitely know what is at the top of my list this week. Definitely pick up Conan because I think that's just it's so good.
That's gonna be my first read on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for our video coming up on Wednesday, where we'll be going over some of the comics that will be up for order on the weekend to give you a couple of days head start on doing those orders. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and
See you.
bye.